Explain Tinbergen's 4 questions and provide an example of how they might be applied to understanding a dog's tail wagging behavior. Answer: Tinbergen's 4 questions provide a holistic approach to understanding behavior, mechanism, causation. This refers to the physiological or neurological mechanisms behind a behavior. In the case of tail wagging, it could be caused by the activation of motor neurons in the dog's tail muscles in response to emotional stimuli like excitement or affection. Ontogeny development. This addresses how behavior develops during an individual's life. Puppies first wag their tails instinctively in social interactions and then refine this behavior as they mature, associating it with positive reinforcement from humans. Phylogeny evolutionary history. This explains the evolutionary origins of the behavior. Tail wagging in dogs likely evolved as a social signal promoting group cohesion in wild canid species like wolves. Function, adaptive value. This examines the survival or reproductive advantage of the behavior. Tail wagging signals positive intent, helping dogs avoid conflict, build relationships, and secure cooperation from other pack members or humans. Tinbergen's framework integrates proximate causes, mechanism, ontogeny with ultimate causes, phylogeny, function, to offer a complete understanding of behavior. What is the difference between positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement? Provide examples relevant to animal training. Answer: Positive reinforcement involves adding a pleasant stimulus to increase the likelihood of a behavior. For example, giving a dog a treat when it sits on command strengthens the sitting behavior. Negative reinforcement involves removing an unpleasant stimulus to increase the likelihood of a behavior. An example is releasing pressure from a dog's harness when it stops pulling, reinforcing the desired behavior of walking calmly. Both reinforcement methods aim to strengthen behaviors, but the key difference lies in the nature of the stimulus. Positive reinforcement adds something pleasurable, while negative reinforcement removes something aversive. Positive reinforcement is often used for behaviors that require motivation, like trick training, while negative reinforcement can be used to stop undesirable behaviors such as leash pulling. Both strategies rely on the animal's ability to associate a behavior with its outcome, leading to increased frequency of the behavior over time. Emily is training her parrot Charlie to say hello when someone enters the room. Emily rewards Charlie with a treat whenever he says hello, but stops if Charlie squawks. Over time, Charlie stops squawking and says hello consistently. What principles of operant conditioning are at play in this scenario, and how can Emily improve Charlie's learning? Answer: This scenario involves several key principles of operant conditioning. Positive reinforcement. Charlie receives a treat for saying hello, which reinforces this behavior. This increases the likelihood that Charlie will say hello again in the future. Extinction. Squawking is ignored, which reduces its frequency. Over time, Charlie learns that squawking does not lead to a reward, while saying hello does. To improve Charlie's learning, Emily can use a variable ratio schedule. Instead of rewarding Charlie every time he says hello, Emily can reward him unpredictably. This encourages Charlie to keep saying hello in anticipation of a treat. Introduce a discriminative stimulus (SD). Emily could use a hand gesture or verbal cue before rewarding Charlie, strengthening his understanding of when to perform the behavior. This adds an extra layer of control to the training process. What is the significance of the socialization phase in a puppy's development, and what are the consequences of insufficient exposure during this phase? Answer: The socialization phase occurs between 3 to 12 weeks of age in puppies and is a critical period for their behavioral development. During this time, puppies are highly receptive to environmental stimuli, including exposure to people, other animals, and novel experiences. Significance: It helps puppies learn appropriate social behaviors through interactions, builds confidence by reducing fear of new experiences, supports the formation of bonds with humans and other dogs. Consequences of insufficient exposure: increased likelihood of fearfulness or aggression in adulthood due to unfamiliarity with common stimuli, a risk of developing phobias, e.g., noise sensitivities, fear of strangers, limited ability to cope with environmental changes, leading to stress-induced behaviors like excessive barking or destructive chewing. How do cats use ear positioning as a means of communication, and what can it indicate about their emotional state? Answer: Cats utilize ear positioning as part of their visual communication. Each position conveys a different emotional state. Forward ears indicate curiosity, interest, or readiness to interact. Ears swiveled to the side, airplane ears, suggest unease or mild irritation. Flattened ears signal fear, aggression, or a defensive state. Constant ear twitching can indicate nervousness or sensory overload. Relevant guidelines: When assessing ear positioning, consider additional body language cues such as tail movement and body posture to gain a holistic understanding of the cat's emotional state. Why might a border collie exhibit excessive herding behaviors in a household without livestock, and how should such behaviors be managed? Answer: herding instincts are deeply ingrained in border collies due to their genetic selection for managing livestock. In the absence of an outlet, these instincts may manifest as chasing children, vehicles, or other pets. Reason for behavior: these instincts are controlled by predatory sequence genes that are heightened in herding breeds. Specifically, the stalking and chasing phases. Management strategies: provide mentally and physically stimulating activities, e.g., agility training, herding-like games. Use positive reinforcement to redirect the behavior to appropriate outlets, e.g., chasing a ball instead of children. Implement structured exercise routines to reduce pent-up energy. Relevant guidelines: the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants (IAOC) emphasizes tailoring behavioral modification plans to a dog's breed-specific traits to ensure sustainable results. What are the most common causes of litter box aversion in cats, and how should these be addressed? Answer: litter box aversion occurs when a cat avoids using the litter box, opting to eliminate elsewhere. Common causes include medical issues. Conditions like urinary tract infections or arthritis can make litter box use painful. Resolution: veterinary evaluation and treatment are essential. Box-related issues: dirty litter boxes, inappropriate size or location. Resolution: clean the box daily. Use multiple boxes, one per cat plus one extra, and place them in quiet areas. Substrate preference or aversion: cats may dislike certain types of litter. Resolution: experiment with unscented, soft-textured litter. Stress or environmental changes: new pets, household members, or changes in routine can trigger avoidance. Resolution: gradual introductions and stress-reducing techniques, such as pheromone diffusers, e.g. Feliway. Dr. Emily adopts a German Shepherd named Max. Over time, Max becomes overly protective of Dr. Emily, growling at visitors. What steps should Dr. Emily take to manage and modify Max's protective behavior? Answer: steps to manage and modify behavior. Assess and address the root cause. Protective tendencies in German Shepherds are instinctual but can escalate due to fear or lack of socialization. Implement controlled socialization. Introduce Max to visitors in a calm environment. Reward relaxed behavior with treats or praise. Train alternative behaviors. Teach Max a place command where he can retreat and feel secure when guests arrive. Use positive reinforcement to reinforce desired behaviors such as sitting calmly. Manage the environment. Use barriers, e.g. baby gates, during initial guest introductions to reduce stress. Consult a professional if needed. Seek assistance from a certified applied animal behaviorist, COB, or a veterinary behaviorist for severe cases. Relevant guidelines: IABC stresses the importance of combining behavior modification techniques with an understanding of breed-specific traits to ensure effective management. Explain the role of scent marking in feline behavior and how it contributes to territoriality. Answer: scent marking is a key behavior in feline territoriality, serving as a method for cats to communicate and claim space. Cats have specialized glands on their face, paws, and tail, which they use to leave scents as territorial markers. Facial rubbing: cats rub their face against furniture, people, or other animals, leaving a unique scent from their cheek glands, signaling their presence and marking the area as part of their territory. Scratching: cats scratch objects to deposit scent from paw glands, while also marking visually. This serves as both a visual and olfactory marker to others. Urine spraying: in more extreme cases, such as when they feel threatened or anxious, cats may spray urine to mark territory. This is often seen in multi-cat households or in situations involving a change in the environment. These behaviors are driven by the cat's instinct to create a secure space. Excessive scent marking, especially in inappropriate places, can signal stress or behavioral issues. Management: offering multiple litter boxes, providing ample vertical space, and reducing stress can help minimize unwanted marking behavior. Environmental changes should be introduced gradually to avoid triggering territorial disputes. How can leash reactivity in dogs be effectively managed? Answer: leash reactivity occurs when a dog exhibits aggressive or fearful behavior towards other dogs, people, or stimuli while on a leash. This behavior is often due to frustration or anxiety as the dog is restrained. Desensitization and counter-conditioning: this approach involves exposing the dog to the trigger, another dog, person, etc., at a distance where the dog remains calm. Over time, this exposure is gradually increased, pairing the presence of the trigger with positive experiences, e.g. treats. Focus on alternate behaviors. Teach commands like "look at me" to redirect the dog's attention from the trigger to the handler. This helps the dog focus on positive cues rather than react negatively. Proper equipment, using a front clip harness, can provide better control over the dog's movements and reduce pulling, which can exacerbate their activity. Avoid using choke chains or prong collars, as they can increase anxiety. Behavioral adjustment. Consistent positive reinforcement training is critical. Training in controlled environments and under professional supervision can accelerate progress. Discuss the role of play in a kitten's predator-prey mimicry development. Answer: play is vital for kittens, not only for entertainment but as a developmental tool to mimic predator-prey interactions. During the first few months of life, kittens develop essential predatory behaviors through play, which they would need for hunting in the wild. Mimicking hunting, play activities such as chasing, stalking, pouncing, and batting at moving objects are all elements of a cat's natural hunting sequence. These movements help kittens develop motor coordination, agility, and spatial awareness. Cognitive development. Play also aids in honing problem-solving skills. Kittens often engage in pretender hunting, where they must figure out how to capture or play with a moving object like a toy. This mimics the problem-solving process involved in catching real prey. Socialization. Through interactive play, kittens also learn social cues such as bite inhibition and acceptable physical limits. Bonding with littermates. Play fosters social relationships with siblings, reinforcing the sense of safety within the litter and helping to manage hierarchical structures. What does a play bow signal in canine communication, and why is it important? Answer: the play bow is a common canine behavior in which a dog lowers its front end while keeping the rear end elevated, signaling a desire to engage in play. Its gesture is vital in canine social interactions, as it helps to communicate that subsequent actions are playful, not aggressive. Play invitation. By offering a play bow, the dog signals that it intends to engage in friendly play, signaling to other dogs or humans that any physical activity, such as chasing or pawing, should be interpreted as fun and not threatening. Reduces conflict. The play bow is an essential de-escalation signal that helps prevent misunderstandings between dogs or between a dog and human. It lets others know that the dog is not exhibiting dominant or aggressive behavior. Social bonding. Dogs use the play bow as part of their socialization process, helping to establish trust and cooperation. Puppies particularly benefit from frequent play, which teaches bite inhibition, body control, and cooperation. Emotional regulation. The play bow can help regulate excitement levels during rough play, allowing dogs to engage in activities without overexcitement turning into aggression. How can scratching behavior in cats be managed without discouraging the behavior entirely? Answer: scratching is a natural feline behavior essential for both physical and psychological well-being. Cats scratch to mark territory, stretch muscles, and keep their claws healthy. However, when it occurs on furniture or other undesirable places, it becomes a challenge. Provide alternatives. The most effective way to manage scratching is by offering appropriate scratching posts or pads. These should be placed in areas where the cat enjoys scratching and made from materials like sisal, which is similar to tree bark. Positive reinforcement. Reward your cat when they use the scratching post with treats or affection. This reinforces the behavior and helps them associate the post with positive outcomes. Redirect attention. If the cat starts scratching an inappropriate surface, gently redirect them to the scratching post. Use deterrents. Non-toxic, safe deterrents like double-sided tape or sprays, e.g. citrus scent, can be applied to furniture to make it less appealing to the cat. Core maintenance. Regular nail trimming can reduce damage caused by scratching. Some owners also use soft paw covers, e.g. soft paws, but these should be used sparingly and with proper guidance. Explain the biological purpose of gnawing behaviors in rodents and rabbits. How can these behaviors be managed in a domestic setting to prevent damage to property and ensure animal well-being? Answer: gnawing is an essential behavior for rodents and rabbits as their incisors grow continuously throughout their lives. This behavior serves to wear down their teeth, preventing overgrowth that could lead to painful dental problems. Gnawing also provides mental stimulation and mimics natural foraging behaviors. In captivity, managing gnawing is vital to prevent damage to furniture and ensure animal health. To manage gnawing, provide appropriate alternatives such as chew toys made from untreated wood, cardboard, or hay. These allow animals to satisfy their gnawing instincts without damaging property. Enriching the environment with physical and mental activities like tunnels, foraging toys, and hiding spots can reduce stress and boredom. Regular veterinary checks are crucial to monitor dental health, especially for rabbits, whose teeth grow continuously. In conclusion, while gnawing is biologically necessary, providing proper outlets ensures animals remain healthy and content and household damage is minimized. Regular enrichment and preventative care will help mitigate any adverse effects of gnawing behaviors. Dr. Alina, a certified consultant, is approached by a client, Mr. Foster, who owns a highly vocal African grey parrot. The parrot frequently mimics alarm sounds and arguments, creating tension in the household. Mr. Foster wants to understand whether the bird's mimicry indicates stress or is simply natural behavior. What should Dr. Alina advise? Answer: Dr. Alina should explain that African grey parrots are highly intelligent and naturally mimic sounds from their environment, including human speech and noises. This behavior is part of their advanced cognitive abilities and social nature. However, mimicking alarming sounds like arguments can indicate that the parrot is exposed to high-stress environments, and the mimicry might reflect this stress. Dr. Alina should advise Mr. Foster to minimize exposure to stressors, such as loud arguments or alarming sounds, as parrots are sensitive to the emotional tone in their environment. Providing positive auditory stimuli like calming music or engaging the bird in conversation can help redirect its mimicry. She should also recommend cognitive enrichment activities like puzzle toys or foraging games, which can reduce the bird's reliance on environmental sounds for stimulation. Dr. Alina should monitor the parrot's overall behavior. If signs of stress, e.g., feather plucking or aggressive behavior persist, further environmental adjustments or consulting with a veterinarian specializing in avian health might be necessary. Discuss the role of the hypothalamus in regulating stress responses in animals. How do its interactions with other systems influence behavior? Answer: the hypothalamus is a critical brain structure involved in regulating the body's response to stress. Upon detecting a stressor, the hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone Rh, which stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone ACT. ACTH triggers the adrenal glands to produce cortisol, a hormone that prepares the body for a fight-or-flight response. This cascade of hormonal signals is part of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, which helps animals adapt to short-term stressors. However, chronic activation of the HPA axis due to prolonged exposure to stress can have detrimental effects on behavior, including aggression, anxiety, or depression. Additionally, the hypothalamus interacts with other brain regions such as the amygdala, which processes emotional responses like fear and aggression. The autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary physiological functions like heart rate and respiration, is also influenced by the hypothalamus. This coordination enables rapid physiological and behavioral responses to stress, but can lead to maladaptive behaviors when stress becomes chronic. Why is cognitive enrichment critical for captive exotic animals, and how does it differ from physical enrichment? Provide examples for both. Answer: cognitive enrichment is crucial for captive exotic animals as it stimulates their problem-solving abilities, encourages learning, and alleviates boredom. Cognitive enrichment helps animals engage in species-specific behaviors like foraging, puzzle solving, and social interaction. When animals lack these mental challenges, they may develop stereotypic behaviors such as pacing, excessive grooming, or self-harm. In contrast, physical enrichment focuses on providing the necessary physical activity and movement that animals would naturally engage in, such as climbing, running, or exploring. Examples of physical enrichment include climbing structures, running wheels, and open spaces for exploration. Both types of enrichment are complementary and essential for the well-being of captive animals. For instance, a primate may benefit from both a puzzle feeder, cognitive, and a climbing tree, physical. However, cognitive enrichment tends to have a more profound effect on mental stimulation and long-term behavioral health, as it prevents cognitive decline and promotes natural behaviors. Differentiate between the effects of acute and chronic cortisol elevation on animal behavior. How does this understanding guide behavioral interventions? Answer: acute cortisol elevation occurs during short-term stress, helping animals respond effectively to immediate threats by enhancing alertness and mobilizing energy. For example, during a sudden encounter with a predator, cortisol prepares the animal to either flee or fight. These short bursts of cortisol are adaptive and generally have minimal negative effects on the animal's long-term health. Chronic cortisol elevation, however, results from prolonged stress and can lead to significant behavioral changes such as anxiety, aggression, and depression. Long-term high cortisol levels can also suppress immune function, disrupt sleep patterns, and impair memory. This distinction is vital for behavioral consultants, as interventions must address both the physical and environmental causes of stress. Short-term stress responses can be alleviated through environmental modifications, such as reducing noise or providing hiding spaces. For chronic stress, a more comprehensive approach is required, including changes in the animal's diet, daily routines, and social structure, along with introducing enrichment activities to promote relaxation. Understanding the impact of cortisol helps professionals design interventions that prevent harmful behaviors linked to chronic stress and ensure long-term animal welfare. How do polygenic traits influence temperament in domestic animals? Provide an example to illustrate this concept. Answer: polygenic traits are influenced by multiple genes, each contributing to the overall expression of a characteristic. In domestic animals, temperament is often a polygenic trait, meaning it is shaped by the combined effect of several genes. These traits, such as aggression, sociability, and fearfulness, are not controlled by a single gene, but rather the interaction of multiple genetic factors. For example, in dogs, the level of aggression or sociability may be influenced by genes that regulate serotonin and dopamine receptors. These neurotransmitters play a significant role in mood regulation, and variations in these genes can result in more aggressive or more docile behaviors. Understanding polygenic inheritance helps breeders and behavior consultants predict temperament in offspring. Breeding for specific temperaments, however, requires careful selection, as these traits are complex and influenced by environmental factors in addition to genetics. Breeders should be aware of the potential for genetic disorders or behavioral traits that might be passed down, requiring responsible breeding practices to avoid reinforcing undesirable traits. Mrs. Klein owns a box turtle that has reduced activity and appetite during winter. She is concerned the turtle is ill. As her consultant, how should you address her concerns? Answer: Mrs. Klein's box turtle is likely undergoing brumation, a form of hibernation seen in many reptiles. Brumation is a natural, seasonal behavior in which turtles become less active and reduce their food intake, typically due to cooler temperatures and shorter daylight hours. As a consultant, I would reassure Mrs. Klein that brumation is normal, provided the turtle is not displaying signs of illness like abnormal discharges, open-mouth breathing, or excessive lethargy. I would recommend she check the temperature and humidity in the turtle's habitat, ensuring it mimics the turtle's natural environment. During brumation, it's important to avoid disturbing the turtle too much, but Mrs. Klein should monitor for any abnormal behaviors. If the turtle remains inactive for longer than usual or shows signs of distress, a visit to an exotic animal vet is advisable to rule out illness. Regular checks for hydration are also crucial to avoid dehydration, especially if the turtle has reduced its activity significantly. In summary, brumation is natural, but ensuring optimal environmental conditions is key to the turtle's health during this period. Explain the role of dopamine in reward pathways and its effect on animal training. Answer: dopamine is a neurotransmitter central to the brain's reward system, playing a key role in reinforcing behaviors that lead to positive outcomes. When an animal engages in a behavior and receives a reward, dopamine is released, which strengthens the neural pathways associated with that behavior. This makes the behavior more likely to be repeated in the future. In training, dopamine is a powerful tool for reinforcing desired behaviors. When an animal is rewarded either through food, praise, or toys, dopamine release helps the animal associate the behavior with a pleasurable outcome. This encourages the animal to repeat the behavior. Trainers can use dopamine to enhance positive reinforcement techniques. By timing rewards immediately after the desired behavior, they can maximize the dopamine response. Over time, the animal will learn to associate the specific behavior with the reward, creating lasting behavioral changes. This principle underlies many training methods, from simple obedience training in dogs to more complex tasks for exotic animals. By understanding the neurobiological basis of learning, trainers can design more effective and humane training programs. What is the significance of operant conditioning in animal behavior modification, and how does it differ from classical conditioning? Answer: operant conditioning, introduced by B. F. Skinner, involves modifying behavior through the use of reinforcement or punishment. In this approach, an animal's behavior is influenced by the consequences it produces. Positive reinforcement, like offering treats for desirable behaviors, strengthens the likelihood of that behavior being repeated. Conversely, negative reinforcement involves removing an unpleasant stimulus to encourage a behavior. Classical conditioning, developed by Ivan Pavlov, is based on associating a neutral stimulus with an automatic, unconditioned response. For instance, if a dog hears a bell before being fed, it may start salivating in anticipation of food, even without the presence of food. The key difference lies in the type of learning. Operant conditioning focuses on voluntary behaviors and their consequences, while classical conditioning involves automatic, reflexive responses triggered by stimuli. Both forms of conditioning play a role in behavior modification. Operant conditioning is particularly useful for shaping complex behaviors, while classical conditioning is effective in creating associations between stimuli and natural responses. Mr. McGrath's ferret has recently begun to bite when handled. What are potential causes for this sudden change in behavior, and how can they be addressed? Answer: a sudden change in behavior like biting in ferrets can be triggered by several factors, including fear, pain, territoriality, or stress. It's important to first rule out any physical health issues that could be causing discomfort, such as injury or illness. A veterinary checkup is advisable to ensure the ferret is physically healthy. If the biting is behavioral, it could stem from a lack of socialization or recent environmental changes that have stressed the animal. Ferrets are highly social creatures, and sudden disruptions in their routine or interactions can lead to defensive behaviors like biting. Addressing the issue requires providing a calm, consistent routine and gradually reintroducing handling in a way that feels safe for the ferret. Positive reinforcement, such as rewarding non-aggressive behavior, can also help. Reducing stresses in the environment and offering enrichment activities can provide mental stimulation and help alleviate frustration. In conclusion, identifying the root cause of the behavior and addressing it with patience, consistency, and positive reinforcement is key to resolving biting behavior in ferrets. Explain the difference between fixed interval and variable interval reinforcement schedules. Which schedule is more resistant to extinction and why? Answer: fixed interval schedule involves reinforcement given after a fixed amount of time has passed, regardless of the number of responses. For example, a dog may receive a treat every 5 minutes if it performs a behavior like sitting during that interval. The reinforcement is predictable, occurring at regular intervals. Variable interval schedule provides reinforcement at unpredictable intervals, making the reinforcement timing random. For example, a cat might receive a treat after varying amounts of time, such as after 3 minutes, 7 minutes, or 5 minutes. The variable interval schedule is more resistant to extinction because the unpredictability of reinforcement keeps the subject engaged, unsure when the next reward might come. This uncertainty makes the behavior more persistent as the animal continues to perform the behavior in hopes of a reward. On the other hand, with fixed intervals, animals can learn when reinforcement will occur, and once the reinforcement stops, the behavior may quickly extinguish. This characteristic of variable intervals creates a stronger, more durable association between the behavior and reinforcement, leading to longer-lasting behaviors. Discuss the principles of optimal foraging theory and provide an example of how it applies to predator-prey dynamics in wild felines. Answer: optimal foraging theory posits that animals make foraging decisions based on a cost-benefit analysis to maximize energy gain while minimizing effort and risk. Key principles include energy maximization. Predators choose prey that provides the best energy return relative to the effort and time spent catching it, minimizing search time. Animals spend more time in areas with higher prey density where the energy return is greater and search time is minimized. Risk aversion. Predators avoid prey that could cause injury or be difficult to capture. In wild felines like cheetahs, optimal foraging theory explains why they target medium-sized, relatively easy-to-catch prey such as gazelles. These animals provide a high return in energy compared to larger prey like wildebeests, which would require more energy to hunt. Cheetahs also avoid prey that is too dangerous or evasive like larger herbivores, reducing their risk of injury. Thus, they maximize foraging efficiency by hunting prey that offers a balance between ease of capture and high caloric value. Why do domesticated dogs exhibit different social behaviors compared to wild wolves? Discuss the impact of domestication. Answer: domestication has significantly altered the social behaviors of dogs compared to their wild ancestors, such as wolves. Key differences include socialization. Dogs are generally more sociable with humans and other animals. Selective breeding has favored traits like friendliness and tolerance, making dogs more adaptable to human environments. Reduced aggression. Unlike wolves, which exhibit territoriality and aggression, domesticated dogs have been bred to be less aggressive, especially toward humans. Juvenilization, pedomorphism. Dogs retain juvenile characteristics, such as playfulness and dependence on humans, which are less pronounced in wolves. This tendency to retain puppy-like behavior contributes to their bond with humans. The impact of domestication is seen in the genetic selection for traits that allow dogs to coexist with humans, such as responsiveness to human commands and affection. Additionally, dogs have evolved to communicate more effectively with humans, showing behaviors like tail wagging or vocalizations that indicate positive emotions. Over time, domesticated dogs have diverged significantly from wolves, reflecting changes in both physical and behavioral traits due to selective breeding and environmental factors. In the context of counterconditioning, explain how a dog's fear of thunderstorms can be mitigated. Answer: counterconditioning is a behavioral technique that involves replacing a negative emotional response with a positive one. In the case of a dog with a fear of thunderstorms, counterconditioning can help change the dog's emotional response from fear to a more relaxed state. The process involves the following steps. Identify the fear stimulus. Thunder is the trigger for the dog's fear response, pairing with positive reinforcement. Start by playing a recording of thunder at a very low volume while providing the dog with a high-value treat, such as a favorite toy or food. Over time, the dog begins to associate the sound of thunder with positive experiences. Gradual exposure desensitization. Gradually increase the volume of the thunder sound while continuing to pair it with rewards. This allows the dog to become accustomed to the sound without experiencing fear. Through repeated exposure, the dog learns to associate thunderstorms with something enjoyable, effectively reducing its fear response. The critical concept here is that the dog's emotional reaction to thunder is counter-conditioned by the positive stimulus, breaking the cycle of anxiety. What are fixed action patterns, FAPs, and how do they differ from learned behaviors? Provide an example in birds. Answer. Fixed action patterns, FAPs, are instinctive, unlearned behaviors that are highly stereotyped and triggered by specific stimuli known as sign stimuli. Once initiated, these behaviors run to completion without further input from the environment. An example of FAP is the egg rolling behavior observed in greylag geese. When an egg rolls out of the nest, the goose will instinctively use its beak to roll the egg back into the nest, regardless of whether the egg is removed during the process. Differences from learned behaviors, innate versus learned. FAPs are innate and genetically programmed, while learned behaviors require experience or interaction with the environment. Stimulus dependent versus flexible. FAPs occur in response to specific stimuli and are rigid, whereas learned behaviors can adapt based on experience. Completion. FAPs proceed to completion once initiated, even if the situation changes, whereas learned behaviors can be modified based on new information. FAPs are adaptive and serve evolutionary purposes, such as ensuring survival or reproductive success, and are less flexible than learned behaviors. What is behavioral momentum and how can it be applied in animal training? Answer. Behavioral momentum refers to the persistence of a behavior that has been reinforced frequently in the past. It is the idea that behaviors that have been well established are more resistant to disruption, making it easier to teach new behaviors or maintain compliance. This concept is based on the principle that once a behavior has been reinforced multiple times, it gains in momentum and becomes more robust. In animal training, behavioral momentum can be applied by starting with easy tasks that the animal already performs reliably. For example, a dog that already responds to sit can be reinforced for this behavior, creating momentum. After this, the trainer can introduce more complex commands like a stay or roll over while maintaining reinforcement for the simpler behavior. This creates a foundation of cooperative behavior that strengthens as the dog learns new tasks. This technique helps improve learning efficiency and reduces the chances of the animal giving up on tasks as it is already accustomed to being reinforced for positive behaviors. How does sexual selection influence courtship behaviors in peacocks? Answer. Sexual selection is a type of natural selection where traits evolve because they increase an individual's chances of mating. In peacocks, sexual selection has shaped their extravagant tail feathers, which are used in courtship displays. The key aspects of this process include mate choice. Female peacocks hens typically prefer males with large, colorful tails because they are indicators of good health and strong genetics. Males with more impressive tail feathers have better chances of attracting mates, indicator of genetic fitness. The tail size and vibrancy are costly to produce and maintain, signaling to females that the male is healthy and free of parasites. This indicates superior genetic quality, evolutionary outcome. Over time, males with more conspicuous tails have higher reproductive success, leading to the proliferation of these traits in the population. Sexual selection can drive the evolution of exaggerated traits like the peacock's tail, because these traits offer an advantage in attracting mates, even though they might be costly in terms of survival or energy.